Hey guys, and as the title says, this is basically a cumulative wrap-up. I haven't done a wrap-up ever since May-ish, and there are a couple books that I do want to talk to you guys about that I've read, and I have a couple of things to say about them. So I decided to just do a cumulative wrap-up of the past couple of books that I've been reading. I haven't been reading a lot, so they're not even that many books. Basically, it would be like a typical wrap-up video for Giselle from Book Nerd Canada because she reads like 18 to 20 books, and that's basically how many books I've had since June. Yeah, that's kind of sad, but what can you do? That has become my life. Running Man has been ruining my life. I am not even kidding. It hasn't been ruining my life, but it's been ruining my reading life. Let's get started. I'm gonna start with the most recent book till the last book the oldest book that I read that I think I haven't shown you guys. I'm not really sure where that ends. But the first book, or the latest book that I'm currently reading, is Vision in Silver by Anne Bishop. This is book number 3 in the Others series. It's a 5-book series. It's adult urban fantasy, and it talks about a girl who's a blood prophet, and when she gets cut, specifically earlier in the book, she actually escaped from a place where they cut her for a prophet. She sees visions of the future, depending on who the questions being asked before the cut. This is a world where there are beings called Others, and they're shapeshifters, and they basically own most of the world, and then they're the humans. And there's a lot of things going on, like, it's just really cool. I love this book. I love the whole blood prophet idea, how the others, which are the shapeshifters, are incorporated in the story, and the conflict and the politics. It is just superb. Book number 3, and I gave the last 2 books 5 stars, so this is definitely worth reading, and book number 4 comes out in March. The next recent book that I read, it is Wild Reckless by Ginger Scott. When I was looking through the Goodreads Choice Awards, one of the options for, I think, romance or fiction was this book, and I'm like, where did this book come from? I look at it and the ratings are crazy. They're like 4.3 something. So I had to get the book, and then I read it in a single day, and I gave it 4 stars. It was definitely worth it. I definitely would recommend this one for NA fans. The next book that I read is After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was recommended to me by so many people. I actually got into this thinking it was like a cute, fluffy chicklet. Definitely not. It's more along the lines of Jojo Moyes' writing, but it's not as sad. Definitely did not cry. You don't need to cry in this book. But I did really enjoy it, and I ended up giving this 4 stars. It's about these couple who are on the brink of like just separating. They pretty much hate each other right now. And you find out initially, like in the first chapter, like how they're struggling and how they just can't stand each other, and then you go back to when they first met, and every chapter it jumps by a couple of months until you're at the present. And then in the present, they decide to take a year apart to discover themselves and see if they actually do want to go back to being together. And it's basically the struggle of the main lead, who is called Lauren, and how she has to deal with that 1-year break, how she has to break it to her family, and how she actually really feels about that 1 year, and if she actually doesn't want to go back to being married to her husband, Ryan. Definitely interesting. I wasn't really a huge fan of how it ended, but that doesn't mean it's not a happy ending. I'm not telling anything. I definitely recommend it to adult fiction fans. I then picked up, or before that, I picked up Murder of Crows by Anne Bishop. This is the second book in the Other series, and like I said, fantastic, awesome, 5 out of 5 stars. I just love this series. I can't say more than I already did. I picked up a review book called Truly Madly Famously by Rebecca Surley. This is book number 2 in the Famous in Love series. I loved Famous in Love a lot, and I loved how it ended, but then Truly Madly Famously just ruined that for me completely. I hated the direction that the author took with this novel. I never do this, but I actually ended up skipping all the way to the end, finding how it's going to end, because I couldn't stand with like how nervous I was for how it's going to end. It ended in exactly how I feared it would end, so I was not a happy reader. This is more of a subjective opinion, meaning that I just didn't like this book because I wanted this direction for the novel. Does not mean that the writing isn't good or the plotline isn't good. I'm just not a fan of the direction that she took with the novel, so I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. I participated in a readathon called Slay That Series, and that was right after I graduated, and I was like, I gotta get back into reading. So I ended up picking up Origin by Jennifer L. Armentrout because I have the first 4 books and I stopped at the 3rd one, which is Opal. I picked this one up and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I just need to get my hands on the 5th book so I can read it. I didn't want to buy it on Book Outlet before I read Origin because now I have this thing where I have to be up to date with the series before I buy the newest book. So that was definitely good and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I also ended up reading Crest by Marissa Mayer. I have the book somewhere. It's just somewhere outside and I don't have the time to get it. But Crest, I've been not dreading picking it up, but I haven't had that much interest in picking it up because I really enjoyed Cinder a lot. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And Scarlet, not so much, not because of Scarlet herself, but I just wanted Cinder and Prince Kai. So I was still hung up on Cinder and Prince Kai, but then all I got was Scarlet Wolf. I need Cinder Prince Kai, and I got none of that in that book. So I wasn't that happy, and that's why I kind of set aside that series, and when Crest came out, I was just like, not gonna read it, and then I find out Winter got postponed, and I'm like, good thing I didn't read it. But then, last month, or 2 months ago, I don't know when that's Slay That series, I think it was in September or October, I ended up picking up Crest, and god damn, that was a good book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, could not stop reading it. It was like, almost 600 pages, and I finished it in like 2.5 days, which is a feat for me. And I loved everything about it. I love Crest, I love Thorn, and I love them together. I really liked their journey. It was more interesting than Scarlet and Wolf. So even if there wasn't, I'm not gonna tell you, any Prince Kai and Cinder, I was okay because I just loved Crest and Thorn. And now that Winter is officially out, because today is the release of Winter, I am going to be reading Winter and just finishing this beautiful series. I then ended up trying to read 1,000 Nights by E.K. Johnson. This is a retelling of 1001 Nights, which I'm very familiar with, and I read The Wrath and the Dawn, which is another retelling, and I absolutely fell in love with that retelling, and it's by Renee Ahdieh. But this one just did not do it for me. I ended up stopping like 50 pages in. I didn't like the writing, I didn't like the characters, nothing happened 50 pages in, and it just felt, I don't know, there wasn't really anything special. I didn't feel the magic. So I ended up putting this one down. Again, any Canadian people that I know, or non-Canadian, whatever, that I know and that live around me and that we've actually met face to face, if you guys do want this copy, let me know because I'm willing to get rid of it. I also ended up reading Tonight the Streets Are Ours by Layla Sales. I have the arc, but I ended up giving it to Giselle because she had to go to the signing. She went to the signing for Layla Sales and Lee Bardugo, etc. So I read this one. It was definitely Layla Sales' signature on it. Definitely felt like a Layla Sales book. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I did really enjoy it. I just kind of wasn't a huge fan of the ending because it was very typical of how The Song Will Save Your Life ended, very similar, and I just hoped that maybe she would surprise me and end it in a different way. But still, I did really end up enjoying it. I really liked the main character, and I liked the little road trip that they took. And I ended up giving this, like I told you, 4 out of 5 stars. So the book that I ended up reading was literally during my last week of my master's and while I was preparing for my thesis, but I needed something to read. I just needed something that I knew would hook me, but I couldn't really choose anything, and I just finished reading Written in Red, which was really hard to follow up. So I ended up picking up Divergent by Veronica Roth. This book holds such a special place in my heart. I wanted to start the Shatter Me series, but Shatter Me is my least favorite book out of all 3, and I had to pick that one up, and I just wanted something that I just love so much. So I picked up Divergent. I read it in like a day and a half, and so good. This is one of the books that I will be rereading so many times and never growing sick of. Of course, 5 out of 5 stars, perfection all the way. Like I told you, I picked up Written in Red by Anne Bishop, and again, this was during my master's, and I just needed something that I might enjoy. So I picked this one up, and I'm like, damn, okay. Continued reading it, finished it in like a day and a half, again, even though I have not read a single book for the past month and a half. I read this one and it was so good. Like I said, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm not going to be repeating myself. I also indulged in some manga reading. I read Kimi no Todoki volume number 3 and volume number 4. They're really enjoyable. I have all the way to volume 14, which I bought off Lynn. So I do want to continue reading on with this series. And both of them were 4 out of 5 star reads. I also picked up Most Likely to Succeed by Jennifer Eccles. As I mentioned, I'm a huge Jennifer Eccles fan, and this is the 3rd book in the Superlative series. I really enjoyed this one, and I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I would definitely recommend the Superlative series for any contemporary YA fan. I also read before the release date Mindy Kaling's book, Why Not Me, because I just couldn't contain my excitement, and Random House were generous to give me that book. And that book was perfection. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's perfect. I love Mindy Kaling. I love her show. I love her as a person. I love her on Instagram. I'm just like, if I can be your best friend, but I don't think I'm worthy of being a best friend for Mindy Kaling because she's too good. She's too good. But I really enjoyed it. It was really funny. It was definitely as good as her first one, Why Is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me and Other Concerns. And I just really hope she ends up writing fiction. I read a little snippet of a story that she wrote in her book, Why Not Me? And it was like a fictional story of her other life if she ended up pursuing something else. And man, it was so good. She does comedy so well. I can picture her as like a really famous chicklet writer. I just really hope that she's in the works of doing something like that. I ended up picking up End of Days by Susan E. This is the 3rd and last book in the Penryn and Rafe trilogy. And this is an amazing trilogy. Initially, a lot of people told me that they weren't happy with the 3rd book and they didn't like it as much as the first 2 and I should be wary of it and all of that stuff. And I'm like, oh no, like I love the first 2 books. But then I tend to have very different opinions of other people when it comes to books. So I gave it a shot and I read it and I loved it and it was so good, action-packed, perfect. I don't think I would have changed anything in the book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Last 3 books, I ended up reading China Rich Girlfriend by Kevin Kwan, which is the sequel, but you don't really have to read the first one, of Crazy Rich Asians. Guys, this book is freaking amazing. I loved it so much. It was so good. I ended up recommending it to my friend, which is why she has the book right now. And my other friend ended up buying a copy of her own because of my recommendation. If you guys want something cool and funny and just different, read this because you get to see how the other people live, how the bajillionaires live and how their way of thinking. It made me so shocked and I was just like surprised and like, it was really good. And it talks about the elite of the elites of Singapore, Hong Kong, and China. And the politics between them and all that stuff. And there's a lot of designer name dropping, but it's done in a way because Kevin Kwan is one of those elite. So he knows how that, class lives because he is one of that class. And it just gives you an insider look on how these people live and what they go through and the drama because literally it's a Gossip Girl Asian style. On to the last 2 books, I ended up picking up Everything by Nicola Yoon. I got this book from Random House for review and I was really excited about it because I love the concept of the plot, how the girl is literally allergic to everything, which is really, it's such a hard thing to live with. And I just love the concept. I started reading it, I loved the main character, I loved everything about it until 3/4 of the way in when things just went downhill for me, meaning that the plot became typical YA plot and just like the supposed shock factor just was like, what? You just ruined the book for me because of that. So I ended up going from a 5-star all the way down to a 3.5 because of what happened in the end. I felt it was very unrealistic and just overly dramatized. But I would still recommend this to a lot of YA fans because it's pretty good and I read the first 3/4 in like a couple of hours because of how addicted I was to it. Now on to the last book that I read. And this is The Royal We by Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan. This is sort of like, not really a retelling, but heavily inspired by Prince William's and Princess Kate? Yes. Their story from how they met in college, etc. Marriage, like and how they got married. But there's a lot of obviously drama in between. It was really good. It's a bit too long though, I think. It's around 450 pages for just, it was literally like dramatic scene after dramatic scene, which I enjoyed, but then in the middle, it kind of got boring. Really boring. I still ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars because I did enjoy it and I love anything set in the UK, as I mentioned before, and this was really well done. So these are all the books that I have read for the past couple of months. Let me know which ones you guys have read or which ones you want to read that have been on your bookshelves for a while. I actually ended up lowering my reading challenge from 100 to around 80. Right now I'm at 68, so I have 12 books to read before the end of December, which is a bit intimidating. I'm reading, like I said, Vision in Silver as well as Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the illustration, but I just don't think I want to hurry up reading the Harry Potter illustration one. I'm going to be picking up a couple of contemporaries here and there so that I can raise up that, I was gonna say GPA, I can raise up that book count. This is it. I hope you guys have a fantastic day and see you in my next video. Bye!